What's up guys, my name is Dean, aka the Blue Crusader, and welcome back to the channel. In the past I've used mods and shaders for older games to try to make them as modern as possible, and the best that they can be in the modern day. So starting off with the series again, in today's video I'll be showing you Half-Life 2 with slightly more modernized graphics. Without further ado, let's begin. Now, usually I do everything entirely from scratch and source out my own chosen mods to try to convert or improve a game with. Usually I'll look for an EMB series shader or some kind of graphical mod to improve the textures and models in the game. However, this is a little different today with Half-Life 2. This is because there's actually quite a few graphics mods out there, and there's a lot of ones that are actually pretty good. Now, there's one mod that's so notorious and critiqued, and it's the subject of a lot of controversy for so many different reasons, which is what I'll be covering in this video and talking about a few of the different points. This has been a mod which I've been wanting to try for so many years but never got around to using it. That mod is the cinematic mod. During my research, a lot of people have critiqued this mod negatively and summed it up as a terrible mod that ruins the Half-Life 2 experience. I wanted to see it for myself and form my own opinion and see if any of these points were actually true. So first of all, I haven't seen as much hate for any individual mod compared to this one. In fact, all of the hate mobs basically drove off the developer from updating this again due to the demands and negativity. Now, this mod can completely change how the game is played, and that's one of the biggest issues people have with this. Well, for those who have owned Half-Life 2 for many years, me being one of them, who has finished the full story before and owned it for quite a long time, maybe they want to experience the game in a different way or through a new feeling. Isn't that why people download mods in the first place? Sure, the cinematic mod is mostly just a normal plain graphics mod, but it also changes the models of the characters and a few other factors. One example is how the recoil system on the weapons is changed, because it adds more kick to the weapons, especially the pistols, which is probably the most notable. This makes it a little bit more realistic, and it makes the headshots deadly kill shots, although it can be spammed with a mouse to negate the recoil in some situations. This is an entirely optional feature that doesn't have to be toggled. When you first set up the mod, you can modify the different effects. You can change the bloom effect and select which preset you want to enable. You can enable anamorphic lens flares, vignette post-processing, sun rays and god rays, film noir colors, reflections on the HEV suit's glass, Gaussian blur, depth of field, film grain, ambient occlusion, fancy post-processing style effects, and more in terms of graphics. You can also choose between either Sweet FX or ENB series shaders and effects to gloss over the game too, each with different presets to choose which can stylistically alter the feeling of the game too. For an example, you could select a Sin City theme that makes the game black and white, or a cinematic shader that makes things more dark and gritty. All of these features can be enabled or disabled and tuned to your liking, which is what I personally thought was good about the graphical settings and features offered by this mod. Then there's the game settings. You can enable a custom movie track if you want to feel more hyped up in the combat situations in the game. And the next point is people's critique on the weapons straying far too away from Half-Life 2's vanilla loadout. Yes, you can enable the cinematic mod weapons for more modern realistic guns, but you don't have to do this. This is entirely optional. This is a theme that will continue throughout this video. Remember this word, optional. I don't understand a lot of the gripes and negativity with this mod, as when I decided to try it out personally myself, a lot of the things that people didn't like didn't have to be enabled. Perhaps this is something that the newest version, which I was playing, implemented and wasn't something that the past versions offered, but this is the current state of the mod. Of course, the weapons for me gave the game a new style and feeling, which is why I chose to download the mod in the first place, so I didn't mind using different weapon models. You can hide the crosshair to make it seem like a real person's perspective too, which makes it feel more like a movie or that you're in the player's shoes. Enable player head bobbing, change the coast sequence after Ravenholm into a nighttime period, and also enable cinematic mod difficulty modifiers that increase the grenade damage and grenade blasts. You can also make bullets more powerful, and like we covered before, headshots more deadly is part of this feature. There's also engine improvements like better particle effects, the preloading of resources, and a large VRAM mode. These are a lot of different improvements from the original game. All of the objects in the game are now higher poly and more detailed, meaning everything looks so much nicer too. So let's cover one of the more controversial features in this mod and talk about it a little bit. So next up is the character pimper. This is a tool that lets people select from a wide range of different character replaces for each model. It lets you change the models for Alyx Alyx across Half-Life 2 and its episodes on each mission, change Barney, Kleiner, Breen, the civilians and other main characters, as well as the Combine too. Now the first big critique about this mod's characters is allegedly the unclothed skins for the certain characters. Allegedly this was a problem in the past where there were some bare body skins, and that's something that everyone seems to bring to mind when they think of this mod. Well, personally when I tested it, as you can see from the background footage, there were no completely disrobed variants of any of the models in the game, and there wasn't anything too rude offered by the mod. Now you do get a list of replacers which make the characters look different. Some of them are a little bit different to the original vanilla ones, but it's nothing that you wouldn't see from any normal mod. It's not entirely 100% innocent, it's something which you may see in a movie, but the kind of models that people mention that you've heard about are no longer in this mod at the time of me testing this myself, so this isn't something which I had a problem with. I'm sure this was something in the older versions of the mod, which is why it's a huge meme, but it isn't a thing in its current state, which is what it should be judged off because that's the current version. All of the replaces for the characters make them look a lot more detailed and the textures look a lot better. One thing I would say though is that the G-Man model in the new version in the mod is not as good as the vanilla one, as I do prefer the original G-Man. But all of the character replaces are optional. You can actually use the vanilla models as well, although they do seem a little bit out of place when everything else is upgraded in terms of graphics. So after everything has been set up, you can move on to the mod. Now I took the liberty to record the gameplay of the first few sequences of the campaign to put it into effect. When you step off the train arriving at the City 17 station, you definitely have a completely different feeling. Everything is much brighter in terms of bloom and rays, but everything is also very gritty and grey and flat in terms of its colours. Especially with the setting I chose, you feel more like you're in a dark world and are in danger. And City 17 in Half-Life is most likely set in what was originally Eastern Europe, Russia and Ukraine or around it, and this mod definitely makes you feel like you are in Eastern Europe. It gives more of a sense of terror, like you are not safe. I enjoyed sniping the Metro Police with headshots with the new bullet damage system, and it was a whole lot of fun. Especially with the new iron sights in the mod, this can make the game feel different in a good or bad way depending on how you feel about having iron sights added into a Half-Life game. The recoil system is not perfect, but it can be really fun to have a different style of shooting. The game looks far more detailed and the HD textures and models look really nice, and it makes it feel like the game came out in 2014, not 2004. The characters look more realistic now, with many of the civilians being similar to the originals but with different hairstyles or faces. Their new look makes it easier to sympathise with them as characters, and it makes it feel more like real people who are going through the hardship of the Combine government. The Metro Cops look far more imposing and like a threat, and they're not to be messed with. G-Man does look far more detailed too, and he looks like a really good character. I would say if I wasn't thinking about the original model, he does look pretty good, although I do prefer the original G-Man's design in Valve's Half-Life 2 that's unmodded. The mod adds a series of foliage such as trees and extra flora across the game to make it feel more natural. This is another criticism with this mod, claiming it has too many trees in comparison to the original, although this is something you'd perhaps expect when the world isn't being maintained. The only thing which I thought was definitely out of place was the posters of bikini models around the game, sometimes in the sewer or hung on the walls by rebels and survivors. This is still in the mod now, this hasn't been removed, this is not an old feature, this is still actually part of it, and this just didn't feel very much like Half-Life at all. Although this mod is trying to feel like the movies, so I can perhaps see the idea, it's just something which I don't really think should be there or fit in with a game. You'll need up to 18 gigabytes to download this mod and all of its enhancements. Is it worth it? Maybe not for some people, but it definitely does give a new perspective on the game by making it much more darker and feel like a movie, which is something I was looking for when doing a replay of the campaign. The only unfortunate thing is that you cannot get any achievements in Half-Life 2 due to it being a mod. However, you can still get hours to track on Half-Life 2 on your Steam profile when playing, which is a pretty good feature if you want to actually track how long you've been playing the game for. Overall, I think the Half-Life 2 cinematic mod is a good mod in its current state, and a lot of the blunders and critiques from its past versions are not really a thing in the current state of it, and they've either been removed or changed to make it appeal more to people. And all in all, it does make Half-Life 2 look a little bit better in terms of being more high quality. Does it look like a modern game? Not really. Perhaps, like I said before, it does seem like it could have been made 10 years later in 2014, but it definitely doesn't look like a 2004 game anymore when playing with this mod. There are other solutions which you could download, like the M mod and the Half-Life 2 update, so there are a few different graphical options and alternatives that you can use, although I do think in the comparison videos the cinematic mod does seem to look the most impressive. I think it can be enjoyable because all of the features are mostly now toggleable, so you can disable the parts that you don't like. This goes for the graphical features as well as the gameplay enhancements and changes. I think for the Half-Life 2 purists this mod may not be for you, but for those of us who have played Half-Life 2 a few times and have completed the campaign already and want to change just how it's played and reimagine it in a different style, then this mod is perfect for you if you don't mind switching things up. I think it makes the game seem more dangerous and a little bit more fast paced in the combat, and it just makes it seem like you're in a completely different world that's a lot more run down like it should be. It brings a different art style to the game than the original has, but I think it blends in really well with how the story goes. So with that, I'm going to show some pure gameplay at the end of this video for you to check out the mod and form an opinion if you like it or not. Now, the look of the mod may be a little bit different to other people's because you can obviously select different shaded presets and customize it to your liking, so you might be able to make the mod look a little bit different to how I did. So thanks for watching this video, and give it a like if you enjoyed it, and I'm interested in your opinion on this mod, so let me know about it in the comments section below. Now, do know that I did play on the 2013 latest update version of this mod, so some of the opinions and some of the points in this video may be a little bit different to the older versions of the mod, but this is just my experience in its current form. So make sure to subscribe for daily gaming videos, and I'll see you soon.
Over here! Ha! No, you don't! Dr. Freeman, I presume. We better hurry. The Combine can be slow to wake, but once they're up, you don't want to get in their way. Dr. Kleiner said you'd be coming this way. I don't think it occurred to him that you might not have a map. I'm Alyx Vance. My father worked with you back in Black Mesa. I'm sure you don't remember me, though. Man, a few words, aren't you? Remember him from Black Mesa? Your old administrator. Don't get my dad started on Dr. Breen. Through here. Funny, you showing up on this day in particular. We've been helping people escape the city on foot. It's a dangerous route to my father's lab. Through the old canals. Today, we're finally on the verge of having a better way. Here, let me buy you a drink.